All right.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome to Trust Relations, the podcast.
I'm here with April, the founder of Trust Relations and the doyen of all things public relations.
And of course, we're joined by the wonderful Hamish, our marketing lead and expert in the space, who I like to call my marketing other half.
We're tackling some of the biggest topics in news and integrated marketing and learning from the mistakes that make headlines or sink brands.
So join us as we have a chat about what works, what doesn't, and what we have to say about all of it. This is the part where I explain to everybody we're celebrating 4 years of Trust Relations this month.
Very exciting.
And that this special episode is featuring a special guest host who is our newly minted COO and everyone's favorite purveyor of amazing company culture, Lana Marshall.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here.
You don't sound excited.
You know that I don't love doing these things. I'm like, camera on me. I'm like, could I just put something over the camera so no one's looking at me? But I'm very excited to be here with you.
Our biggest fans might remember Lana from episode 29 of the PR One Down podcast, where we talked about operations overhaul. She is currently as I mentioned, the Chief Operations Officer at Trust Relations, where she oversees, surprisingly, operations, but also finance, HR, recruiting, and our client service teams. She has a background in PR, managing a variety of big brands, and also venture-backed startups spanning the wellness, culinary, hospitality, tech, and beauty spaces. And we are thrilled to have her not only as part of Trust Relations, but as part of the Trust Relations podcast.
Yay. Well, I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
This is the part where we're supposed to chit chat about how are you doing.
How I'm doing?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm great. I'm still coming off of the vacation.
Honeymoon.
I guess I do have to say it's a honeymoon, huh?
Honeymoon.
my honeymoon.
Bury the lead.
Yeah, so I was in Thailand for 2 weeks, went to 3 different cities, started in Bangkok and then Krabi and Phuket, and got to see all the things, ate all the food, and came back so happy to be alive. So yeah, and this is another highlight to being back, is getting to spend some time with you.
Oh, come on. Don't be so PRE.
Yes. Okay. So fair, it's not Thailand, but it's the next best thing, right?
All right. That was a pretty hard spin. But I'll take it. That's awesome. Well, we are talking about news. And in this special segment, we're usually talking about other people's news, but today we're talking about our own news. And the news is that we are actually unveiling brand new brand values. We've always had values, but we finally redefined them and decided to, dig into what does the Trust Relations brand really at its core stand for. We narrowed it down. We had a lot of other options, but we narrowed it down to build trust, be authentic, reinvent, be excellent, and be considerate. So, building trust is really core to our mission, because that's what we're doing not only with clients, but on their behalf with the rest of the world. And so the whole foundation of the company is really built around emphasizing transparency on all sides, the way we communicate with our internal teams, to our relationships, the clients we serve, and making sure that wherever possible that their storytelling and story doing, as I like to say, aligns, so that we aren't spinning some fabrication or spinning some yarn out of something that they want to be true but isn't quite yet. So, Lana, do you want to introduce our second brand value?
Sure. Be authentic.
Yeah.
So being authentic within the organization and externally when we're thinking about how our clients communicate to the media. And so where I feel like internally this makes sense for us is essentially looking at what our team members bring to the table just in and of themselves when they are, going to work on a particular client. So what I mean by that is looking at their experience and what they're passionate about, et cetera, and then trying to find the right client fit for them and then putting them on those particular teams. So the reason why we decided to do this is, I'm sure if you've ever worked in an agency, this has happened to you where a client comes down the pipeline and you have zero interest, zero prior experience, et cetera, but you have quote unquote capacity, that wonderful word that everyone really hates, but you have capacity. And so you get put on that client, and essentially it's just you going through the motions. You're not probably doing everything that you could. You're not as interested. So you're not really, like, when you run into a wall, probably you're going to stop there, right? You're not going to go above and beyond or even try to find different ways to work around a problem. And what we have realized is that when we are putting our team members on teams that make sense with their prior experience, their innate interests, they tend to want to go that extra mile, and
Mhm.
they tend to be happier because their days are filled with things that they like. What a concept,
Mhm.
right? So the results are better, the team is better, and when the team is happy, I'm happy, and then the clients in turn are happy
The
too.
team isn't happy, Lana's not happy.
Yeah, gotta go and fix that, right? So really, it's all in service of all parties involved, and that's kind of why it made it to the 5 values that we are kind of
Yeah.
introducing today.
Yeah, and I love that we actually, I think you hinted at this, but we actually asked each team member before they join an account whether they actually wanna be on it, which is
Yeah.
never been done before at any agency I've
Mhm.
been at. We very rarely actually have people that don't, because we ask people that we know probably will want it to
Mhm.
anyway,
'Cause
but
we spent the time asking them
yeah, for
and
sure.
all that, and everyone kind of goes through a welcome survey when they join the agency, where they can kind of tell us, like, what are the things that you are interested in, what kind of
Mhm.
clients do you want to be on, etc. So we tend to make leaps based on their answers, but there's no bad consequence to saying no,
No, never.
which is
Mm-mm.
something I think is fairly unique, you know. Yeah.
Yes, awesome. Okay, third value is reinvent. And I think this is really where our kind of disruptive approach to the industry and innovation comes in, because we are actually trying to reimagine traditional approach to PR, trying to reimagine the traditional approach to an agency, right? And we're trying to actually even look at ways of integrating with the marketing tactics that are traditionally left outside of PR and
Mhm.
integrate those into the agency as well. So there are a lot of ways in which we just keep finding ways to be a little bit different. We have a point system, which is also reinventing the agency approach to client service. And I don't see that we'll ever stop, right? I think we'll keep finding new ways that we think we can better serve the clients that we serve, the industry and the employees, and keep being innovative in those ways. So really what we're talking about here is our ability to just keep finding new ways to creatively problem solve for existing and future needs and issues and address those, which is, I think, really cool.
Yeah. We're in the growing phase of our agency. And so, what is really nice about that is that we're able to implement changes almost immediately as soon as we see a
Mhm.
problem or we see something that might need to be done ahead of us, like growing into the giant agency that we one day will be. Kind of keeping that conversation open so that we can reinvent with what we're hearing is a really important part of the culture in general. So, yeah, it's
Mhm.
exciting.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Less red tape. Got through.
Yeah, that's part of the
Nice.
reinvention. No more
Yeah.
of that. No more of
Yeah.
that hierarchy stuff. Well, Lana, I feel like you're the perfect person to introduce the fourth value of be excellent, because you are excellent.
That is very kind, and I'm very humbled by the compliment. Thank you. So, the fourth value is be excellent. So, I mean, in essence, we want to be excellent in every way we can be, from us as an agency, and then the service that we provide to our clients. So that kind of, managing our clients to how we advise them to position themselves to, media and otherwise, and keep reinventing, all to be excellent with that pursuit of never do less than your best. I think that that is something that we kind of see throughout the agency, and why I think we have the team members that we do is because we have such a high bar for excellence, but also that's not without a reward to the team members that we work with.
Mhm.
And I think that is like the missing piece for other agencies is oftentimes they expect a high level of excellence and not enough of the this is we really see what you're doing and we want to appreciate you in
Mhm.
all the ways possible. So
Yeah, and I think really what we'd love to be able to do is change the perception of PR because I know it doesn't have a positive impression across the board for a lot of clients and a lot of, even the general public, I think. And so what we're really trying to do here is change that perception of PR slash what we hope will eventually just be called TR for the bank.
yeah.
Okay, the last one is very, very important to both Lana and me. So I think we should tag team this one, but be considerate is very, very big for us. And I think I've talked about this probably ad nauseum at this point on all of the podcasts, but it's very important to me because of the entire impetus for starting the agency that everyone within trust relations be considerate and kind to each other. Because I had not exactly that experience in a lot of other agencies, and not that there weren't pockets of it, but it wasn't a consistent experience. And
Mhm.
so what I really, really wanted for trust relations to become is this sort of safe haven for people to come do great work and be respected, to be mentored, to feel like they're part of a team and there is actual mutual respect between everybody, regardless of differences in backgrounds, culture, age, experience, all of the things, right? Because what we don't want is that sort of traditional, okay, everything rolls downhill that doesn't always look pretty. So, so this is, I think really, really big to us. And I'll let Lana speak to it, but I know a really big reason why she's even part of trust relations and also does what she does and puts so much heart and soul and time into it.
Yeah, I this is probably the value that is like most relevant to my day to day. Always trying to find ways to ensure that this is happening from the time that someone is brought on to trust. Even interviewing for trust relations is like I kind of lead in with that, when I'm telling them about the agency because it is so incredibly important. Team members are coming to a workplace where they feel safe. That is what is really important because team members that feel safe and happy tend to do better work. They tend to stay. And when they do better work and tend to stay, the clients are then happier and they tend to stay. And then et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? It
Mm,
which seems like such a obvious concept, but like is not something that's obvious in agency experiences. And I'm saying
mm-mm.
that from, some of my own to the kinds of experiences that team members, people that I've interviewed, et cetera, have all kind of told me the same story, which is kind of sad if you think about it when it comes to the industry as a whole.
It
But
is sad. It's really sad.
which is why I'm so happy to be a part of Trust because we spend a lot of time thinking through the way that we communicate to our team members, the things that we message as incredibly important, et cetera. Like all of those things are done with a lot of intention, and a lot of that intention is centered around how are we most considerate and kind to the team members that we work
Hmm.
alongside. So yeah.
Yeah. I know I'll never forget recently when we had somebody come to us and she said, I was so intimidated to talk to the COO and the CEO. I had this concern that I wanted to bring up, and I was so afraid for months I didn't say anything. And then I finally realized that you guys are safe to talk to. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you should have said something months ago. It's like
Yeah.
not even a big issue in the end, but
But things like that, I think, are really from past experiences, right? And the only
mm,
way that we can really make people safe is just by doing, like, showing them,
mhm,
building trust over time with them, and that if they do come to us, even if it's uncomfortable or even if it's, feedback for us that might not be even convenient to hear, right? It's going to be met with an understanding ear. And, if something needs to be done to change that, something needs to be done.
yeah.
So I think all that comes with time and building.
And then they see that we do it, right? I think that's the other piece of it because they've given us feedback and then we implement it and it's like, "Oh, wow,
Yeah.
that worked," right? Which is,
Or it
always
doesn't. And then we gotta
It doesn't
reinvent
always.
again, you know, which is okay. That's
It
all part of
does.
it's all part of it.
It does when it does, yeah. Amazing. Well, I think that's a wrap on our big news of the day. So, for segment two, we're talking about brand essentials. And today it is, what should a values based approach look like for agencies and brands? And I think today, talking about what we hinted at in that previous segment about the storytelling equaling story doing. So, how do you, for example, take the values we just talked about and then implement them into your brand? I actually just wrote an article about this called Great Brands Start Within with a Great Culture. And I think what we're really talking about here is exactly that, where the first step is getting really clear on your values and what they mean. The second step is implementing them consistently, not just making them some plaque on the wall, because I think a lot of companies just sort of have them hanging around somewhere. But if people actually had to recite the values or know what the values were, I don't think they would actually know. And it wouldn't feel like it's living and breathing within the culture. Just like with anyone else, whatever is happening inside of you comes out. It's the same with the brand. So I feel like whatever you establish at the culture level is then establishes the brand. One example is Zappos former CEO, Tony Hsieh. I mean, he's done an awesome job of doing that at Zappos, and I think really set the bar high for that. And they even do something where they have 2 rounds of interviews every time they interview a candidate. So the first one is, okay, based on their merits, are they a good fit? And then the second round of interviews is conducted by HR to make sure they're a culture fit. And if they
Mhm,
don't pass both sets of interviews, they're not hired. And then
mhm,
even after they're hired, they have 2 weeks where they get basically ingrained into the company. They go through all of their onboarding, etc. At the end of the 2 weeks, if they don't think they're a good culture fit, they're given $2,000 to leave and never come back with all the pay for those 2 weeks.
so crazy. I love it.
I love it too. It's amazing. And Tony talks a lot about, he wrote in this Huffington Post article that I devoured because I thought it was so fascinating. But he talks about how once you do that, then you never have to worry about a reporter walking around and talking to literally anybody. So when he has reporters come into Zappos, he'll let them just have carte blanche of the entire
Mhm.
place, because anybody they talk to is going to understand the brand, the values, and embody it and be a spokesperson for it, right? Which is
I
just so
wanna
cool.
buy from Zappos. I, like, all of a sudden have a hankering to buy from Zappos, like, right now.
I mean, and their customer service is on the same, wavelength in terms of the 365-day free returns and all of that, right? And if you've ever had to deal with Zappos customer service, they're absolutely delightful. So,
Be
yeah.
done.
Anyway, this is just an ad for Zappos, really, but no.
I'm sorry. Is this not the Trust Relations podcast? No, no.
Sorry. No, another great example of a brand that has done this really well is REI. So the outdoor
Yes.
company, right? Yeah. So they have
I camp all the time, can't you tell?
no, you do not. So REI has this cool thing that they do because they want every employee that works there to actually legitimately care about that kind of outdoor culture and either be into camping or mountain climbing or whatever. And so they have these yay days,
Oh my god, I
and
love this
they
already.
and they give team members 2 days off per year to try any new outdoor activity they've never tried.
So fun.
And then in 2015, they also started closing their stores on Black Friday, which is like blasphemy, right? Within
Mhm.
the sort of consumerism of America. But essentially, they pay their staff for the day and shut down on Black Friday to encourage their employees to go out and enjoy the wilderness instead of consumerism.
Oh, I
Isn't that
love
cool? I know.
yeah.
It's very like against the grain. Those are 2 really good examples of that. And, then there's a really great quote that I use in the article as well. Aaron Levy, the co-founder and CEO of Box, he said, "You can't build a differentiated product without building a differentiated culture."
Mhm.
And I think that that's so, so, so true.
Yeah.
And so the culture piece of it is very important in terms of getting it right so that everybody is doing what the values stand for. And
Mhm.
then after that, you need to have everything that you're producing also reflect the values that come from within and
Mhm.
from the employees, which is where that kind of be excellent piece comes in, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. So really a lot of the focus that we have at Trust Relations when we first bring a client on, we do a trust analysis to make sure that what they want to say about themselves and how they want to position the company is actually authentic to who they are and how they are actually different,
Mhm.
and getting alignment there and making sure if there are any proof points we need, any case studies, any examples, any research, any data, things like that, we have those on hand because as Lana, I'm sure, can attest to, when you go to the media and you can't substantiate your claims, you're in trouble.
Mhm.
And so this is a way of just making sure at the outset of a campaign that we aren't pitching something about a client that isn't quite so, and
Mhm.
then getting them and ourselves in trouble as a result. And every once in a while, even suggested to prospects or incoming clients things that they could do differently, even at the operational level, to become more newsworthy and become more aligned with how they want to be talking about themselves or should be talking about themselves.
Mhm.
So there's something, really important, I think, about getting those values to be congruent throughout every single step of the way.
Mhm.
Do you have anything you want to add in, Lana, before I keep going on my monologue here?
No, I was gonna bring up the trust analysis. It's
Yeah.
like it is incredibly important to kind of start off a campaign, and something that we might want to mention is that it's sometimes a 2.5 to 3 hour exercise, which is communicating to the client how incredibly important that the things that they're saying, and then we then are saying to the media is it needs to be authentic and needs to be true from all angles,
Mhm.
and that whatever we are talking about here is true because we're
Mhm.
then going to tell that story to the world, and we want to make sure that if media comes and starts asking really really hard questions that you have those answers. So yeah, I think it's a really really valuable exercise. Obviously it takes a lot of work and time, etc., but the outcome really sets the team up for success, and us being able to tell a story successfully. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think we've already touched upon how we're doing it at Trust Relations in terms of having that kind of team approach to curating teams that are the best match for that client based on their expertise, their passions and interests, their talents, their personalities. And we really do strive to have everybody be a good fit across the board, which isn't to say we don't sometimes do gourmet cooking, which Lana is secretly brilliant at, where you take different ingredients that you wouldn't normally imagine would be good together, and then, oh wow, this really works, right? And
Yeah.
I think Lana as a chef, in her, I was going to say in her day job, somehow I don't know what, in her fantasy day job as a chef, Lana actually does do chef technique when putting together teams, I think, on the other end of it.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's actually one of my favorite parts of my role here is kind of being able to create team chemistry, and after getting to know the team and getting to know the client, etc.,
Mhm.
being able to kind of put together a team that makes the most sense. And sometimes it works, and a lot of the time it does, and sometimes we have to make some adjustments and ads or edits, etc., but it's been very rewarding to be a part of that
Mhm.
process in the
Yeah,
end.
for sure. And then we also have the kudos thing that we talked about, and, feedback and promotions and raises and things wherever it's organically true that they are mapped to these different values. We'll point them out to show where they have excelled in these different places. And also, we're going to be looking at anybody that we're working with on the client side, the partner side, the vendor side, et cetera, anywhere where we can get in better alignment with people that also embody the same values, and really just this commitment to mentorship, which we touched on as well, but I think is maybe something we could dive into a little bit more because it does set us apart by a lot. We have a segment in the PR wind down of things I should have been trained on, because I think everybody in PR feels like they should have been trained on everything and weren't just kind of feet to the fire, thrown to the deep end, like figure it out or sink or swim. But we actually do strive to have more of a mentorship based approach so that people are learning as they come along and not feeling they just have to figure it out as they go.
That was definitely my experience when I was working on accounts as well, and I had 2 amazing mentors that I still am in touch with now, that I think was rare that I got that experience, honestly, because the majority of the people that I talk to that have come from agency backgrounds do not have that experience. They didn't get that, and that has shaped how I kind of want to structure our agency, because I know how helpful that was for me when I was, doing account work. And then now the same principles that I kind of apply to what I do at Trust, both of those mentors that I have kind of showed me, even despite all of the insanity that is going on, to keep a level head, and that
Mhm.
pretty much most things are fixable. And it might not be quite obvious at right when it's happening, but you just have to take a step back, have a level head, and kind of look at the facts, and then figure out what are the things that you can mitigate, and what are the things that just are what they are, and you have to come to terms with them and move forward accordingly. And that has really, those concepts have really taught me a lot, and have set me up for success in this role, which is obviously very dynamic, and it comes with its a lot of different curveballs. So I'm very grateful to both of them for teaching me that, and to kind of that principle of just everything is fixable and it will be
Yeah.
okay. You just have to figure it out.
So the last thing I just want to leave brands and agencies with as a takeaway for when they're looking, how can we implement our values in a way that's meaningful to the operations, the culture? How can we actually, make it systematic and or memorialize it or whatever? I know when Lana and I were talking through it, because there are some examples of people who have done it very heavy-handed is probably a way of saying it, where it can read as a bit overbearing.
Mm.
And I heard of one example of somebody who had, they had 5 key values and they had bobbleheads for each of the 5 key values, and every meeting they had, whoever embodied the key value got the bobblehead and it would pass around, and if they, they could have one more than one bobblehead or whatever. I just found that a bit on the
Or
nose.
yeah.
Yeah, like it just felt a bit, yeah, it just felt a bit inelegant for my personal taste, but I think that could work depending on the culture, right? And another example that I know Lana has seen is where your reviews are tied to those values, and you have to prove, here's a place where I excelled at this value, and actually make the case for yourself based against them. And when we were kicking around whether or not to do something like that, it just felt a bit aggressive again. So I think it just depends on your comfort level with how sort of overt versus more artful you want it to feel as part of your brand. But I really like the idea of, and I think we naturally do this, of making sure at the bare minimum that the people you hire do embody those values, even if it's not that you're necessarily interviewing them by value.
Yeah, and then maybe like if you are introducing any sort of new system, new platform, new anything to the agency, that you evaluate it on if those things actually, work against your values first before implementing it. And then when you clue in the rest of the agency on this thing, whatever it happens to be, that you share, why
Yeah.
it did pass that test. Because the more that you communicate and reinforce that every decision is kind of based off of these values, that is telling your team and the agency, et cetera, that these are very important to you, without being like, here are the values, look at them, memorize that, which is something that we have talked
Yeah.
about. We do not love that idea. Like, it's the very like forced family fun, and
Yeah,
it
yeah,
ends
yeah.
up oftentimes like doing the opposite of what you wanted it to be. It doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel like it
Yeah.
really is who we are, when we have to like beat people over the head with it. So more of the story doing than the storytelling, uh,
Yeah, I love that. That's a
in
great
our
way of putting
approach.
it.
Yeah. So I don't know if this has kind of been talked about here, but we give appreciation gifts every month to the team. So essentially, what that means is that, if someone is going above and beyond in any way, so, a team member does something that isn't necessarily in their job description, but really showcases how we would love other team members to kind of be the same way, they'll send a little shout out to me, and I then coordinate a gift to be sent to that person with a little note giving them, a little bit of extra context as to how they are awesome. And now instead of just that, we are going to kind of say, this XYZ thing that you did falls under one of five or two of five tier values. And so that's one way that we're gonna do that. And
Yeah, and I'm especially excited about giving out kudos for people that were just considerate, which will be something new because I think it's primarily been pinned to it's mostly about excellence, right? When they've gone
Mhm,
above and beyond or they've achieved something. But I'm
mhm.
excited about just if somebody is, thinks outside the box, they get a reinvention kudos, or if they build trust or they're considerate or whatever. I think it'll be really neat to give some kudos and gifts around just being a good human as well as being a good employee.
Agree.
Yeah, very exciting. It's all very exciting. All right, so with that, I think we should close it up for this episode, Lana, and thank our
Yes.
listeners. So you can catch the show wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Remember to subscribe, rate, and share the show to keep this content coming your way and grow this community of communicators. And also, thank you for being along for the ride to Lana and everyone listening as we build trust relations into the agency of the future and beyond.
Yes, happy 4-year anniversary.
Thank
Right?
you to us. We need candles. Where are the candles?
Right?
All four. They're blown out. Okay. All right. With that, goodbye, everybody. Are there any of your favorite kudos gifts that you can recount, and why were they your favorites?
To me specifically, or just
Either to
like
you
other
or
people?
to the team, like, that were just, like, so perfect for that person, and why? Without obviously revealing anybody's, innermost secrets or personal details, but
Yeah, so a really funny one is one that we gave to Jen McManus, and she has a long-standing obsession with Keanu Reeves. Rest of the world, I'm sure. And she recently got one, and it was a blanket with Keanu Reeves like imprinted on it.
We got a photo of her wrapped up in her Keanu Reeves blanket.
Yes, exactly. And
That was amazing.
the way that we can kind of like decipher these things is because I do monthly calls with our team members. And so if anyone at any point is saying, I love this or I did this over the weekend or whatever, it's kind of weird. I tend to have like little notes, personal notes of like everyone's names and like weird little fun facts about them. So when it comes time to give a gift, I usually reference that and then, we go from there. So Keanu Reeves is in like bold capital letters on Jen McMahon. So yeah.